how I got into golf. Now, I just did a video on my regular channel about golfing in Armenia, Colombia. And in doing so, I got to thinking about my golfing and where is it? Whatever happened to it? I got into golfing for the first time I was in my 40s. I was in the car business like most of my life. And at that time, I was doing stints as what you'd call a consulting manager or a crisis manager, where I would be hired by a place for usually about a year to go in and take a business that was crippled and losing a lot of money, have a lot of problems, and I would go in and create new systems and procedures and turn it into a profitable business. And it was pretty enjoyable. Well, during that time, in Rochester, New York, I started to acquire a name for myself. There was one business in particular, I won't mention the name, but it was kind of a hellhole, and it was part of a larger company. And so I went in, and within 6 months, we had it turned around from losing a ton of money every month to making a lot of money. But better than that, we started putting out extremely high quality work, where before, I guess you would say it was butcher work. And also during that time, I was writing a lot of articles for various trade magazines. In my life, I've written, I don't know, hundreds. Well over 200, I know. And so my name started to be recognized, and in that community, there was an auto body association, a craftsman's guild, and one day they came and dressed in their nice suits. They asked me if I would be interested in joining the board of directors. So I go, sure, why not? You know, it's to this day, I still keep taking on more than I can handle. And if you're wondering why I changed and why I have this instead of the other deal, I noticed in editing my videos, I was getting a lot of popping sounds, and hopefully this will eliminate it. I don't want to be spitting into the mic. So anyway, my business dealings and articles drawing notoriety, so they asked me to join the board of directors, and I did. What's this got to do about golf? I'm getting to it. I wasn't there very long when they had me the editor of the magazine. They had a trade magazine that went out once a month, distributed all over the country. And they also voted me as executive director of the Craftsman's Guild. Excuse me. Well, part of the duties of the executive director is to fundraise, because it costs money to do what we were doing, and we were doing shop inspections and creating standards. So one of the fundraising things traditionally that they did was a golf tournament. See, I told you I'd get to it. So, of course, you know, I'm going to go to a golf tournament because it's part of the thing. You don't sit on the board and not go. But I'd never golfed. I putt, miniature golf, but I'd never golfed. I really didn't know anything about it. And so I go. And the first time I went, it was a little rainy. And I think normally you might not even go out, but these things are planned months ahead, thousands of dollars invested. You got people coming from all over the planet to attend these. This was it was a pretty famous, pretty popular golf tournament, actually. So it's a little rainy, but it goes on anyway. I'd never been there before. We get assigned a golf cart. Well, I had fun in the golf cart. It was a blast. I'm bebopping around, and I'm sliding, and my wheels are spinning. I didn't know that these greens cost tens of thousands of dollars to create, and I'm there putting wheel ruts in them. I don't know how we didn't get in a ton of heat over that. I didn't, and the Craftsman's Guild didn't, and I did a lot of damage, but I think I wasn't the only one. Some other people maybe drank too much and did something similar. I know there was a golf cart that had a little body damage on it, Now, I think because we went there year after year after year, that they kind of gave us a pass. I'm certainly glad. I can't imagine what that would have cost. So anyway, after a few years of that, I started getting interested in it. I started seeing why people want to play. I mean, it's not only it's fun, it's competitive. I like competition, but it's relaxing, and it's got golf carts. I mean, you can't beat that. So I started to go. And if you're going to go outside of these tournaments, you really need some clubs. So I bought a set of clubs. Now, my first set of clubs were they weren't bottom of the barrel. They weren't bad actually, but they were a Wilson brand, which is a great name, but it's not such a great name in golfing. But these were, I would say, almost middle of the road. I had a couple, I would say, pro golfers. I mean, they could golf par all the time. And they looked at them and, they chuckled, but then they took them out and they, hefted them and said, oh, these really aren't too bad. So, okay, I didn't know any better, but they were fine for me. So I bought the clubs, and with the clubs, I started to go more often. Then eventually, time goes on. I resigned from the board. My life moved on. I went to a different area, and then I'm away from Rochester, New York. And I should insert here one of the golf clubs that we would have these tournaments at. It's called Oak Hill Country Club. Now, if you're a golfer, you've probably heard of it. In Rochester, New York, there's 57 golf courses. A number of them are world class. Oak Hill is one of those. As a matter of fact, there's been 4 PGA championships played there. The Ryder Cups happen there. U.S. amateur golf tournaments. Players like Lee Trevino and Jack Nicklaus and Ben Hogan and Sam Snead and all these names in golf, they've all played there, and a few of them said it was their favorite course. It is a beautiful course, and it's pretty challenging. It actually has a world rating. It's rated 73rd best golf course in the world, and in the United States, it's rated the 64 best golf course. I certainly wasn't suited for it, but how did I get away from golfing? Because I got more and more into it. I really started to like it. I bought the little booties for the clubs, and I had nice gloves, and I had some monogram golf balls. That's yet another story. So it was fun, and while I wasn't addicted to it and I didn't go all the time, I would try to get out 5 or 6 times a year, and I certainly liked it. But let's roll back ahead again. So here I am, I'm living in North Carolina, and that's where I got sick, and it was cancer. I was supposed to die, blah blah. I told you that story 1,000 times. I was in bed for 2.5 years. It was a sad, sorry time of my life, boo-hoo. But here's the thing. While I'm laying in bed, the golf clubs are sitting over there in the corner. So day after day after day, I'm staring at those clubs. And I'm thinking, well, I'll never play again. And so then when I start planning, because I didn't believe that I was actually going to die, so I was planning what I'm going to do after I'm sick. And so for a year, I was planning, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? Because I wouldn't be able to work, at least for a period of time. And that's when I got into, I ended up in Ecuador, and told that story 1,000 times too. Well, this is going on. I say, okay, when I go, what am I going to take? What am I going to leave? Well, I'm going to sell everything off. And so I sold the golf clubs off. I didn't really have a way to bring them without a huge expense. It's expensive to take things to Ecuador. Had I been coming to Colombia, I probably could have brought them, but going there it was a little more problematic. And I just spent my life savings on the hospitals and doctors, and I was almost broke. I had enough to get in there. I sold the golf clubs. I get to Ecuador, and my focus is entirely on recovering. I mean, I couldn't even walk at first. It took me months and months and months so I could go out and walk without pulling or straining something. It was a way to go, and it was probably a good year before I was close to back to normal. And so it wouldn't have come into play anyway. And so then I just kind of forgot all about it. There was nobody around that was golfing, so it was out of sight, out of mind. I come to Colombia, I hadn't really given it a thought. Until one day I'm doing the Grand Colombia Coffee Time Live, and one of the viewers says, "Hey, are there any golf clubs in Armenia?" I don't know. I've completely erased golfing from my mind. I had no clue. And so I did a little research. I put together that video, which prompted this one. And now I'm thinking about golfing. It's, I'm thinking about how much fun it was, particularly after I've been locked up in this prison, for months and months and months. I'm just thinking how paradise it would be to get in the golf cart and roam around and hit the balls and just have a good time. So that's my life and experience with golfing. I'm curious if you have any, so feel free to put comments down below or send me off an email and tell me what your experience is with golfing. And if you were living here in Armenia, Colombia, is it something that you would want to get into, or is it something you would want to continue with, pursue? And what do you think the obstacles would be? I'd be interested in hearing that. So anyway, that's it for today for Saying in Colombia. Yeah, it's a distinct possibility. So that's it for today. Stay tuned. See you soon.